Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, your ultimate source for hard-hitting dairy industry insights. In our 160th episode, we're tackling a crisis that threatens to reshape North American dairy forever. July 1st, 2026 isn't just another day, it's D-Day for dairy farms across the continent. We're facing 25% tariffs that could obliterate $1.2 billion in trade, while corporate behemoths threaten to swallow family farms whole. It's adapt or die time for milk producers, and we're diving deep into how you can survive and thrive in this new reality. So grab your favorite dairy beverage, straighten up, and prepare for a no-holds-barred look at the future of our industry. The dairy apocalypse is coming, and the Bullvine is here to help you navigate it. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we tackle the hard-hitting issues in the dairy industry. I'm your host, Bella, and today we're diving into a topic that's got everyone from Wisconsin to Quebec on edge. The looming USMCA termination countdown. Joining us is our resident expert, Douglas, who's here to break down what this means for North American dairy farms. Douglas, let's cut to the chase. What are we looking at here?
Bella, we're staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. July 1st, 2026 isn't just another day on the calendar. It's D-Day for dairy. We're talking about $1.2 billion in trade at risk, 25% tariffs shredding profits, and family farms facing extinction. This isn't hyperbole. It's the cold, hard reality of what's coming.
That sounds dire. Can you give our listeners some context on how we got here?
Absolutely. The USMCA, which replaced NAFTA, is up for review in 2026. This isn't just bureaucratic red tape. It's a potential death knell for the cross-border dairy trade we've relied on for decades. Trump's Commerce Department is sharpening its tariff guillotine. Canada's digging in its heels on supply management, and caught in the crossfire, family farms on both sides of the 49th parallel.
So it's not just a U.S. problem. This affects Canada too?
You bet it does. This is a North American issue, and it's going to reshape the entire dairy landscape if we don't act fast.
Let's dive into the specifics. You mentioned a butter bloodbath. What exactly does that mean for farmers?
It's not pretty, Bella. Let me break it down with some hard numbers. In 2023, U.S. dairy exports to Canada totaled $1.09 billion, with butter exports alone hitting $118.9 million. Now imagine a 25% tariff slapped on that. We're not talking about a haircut, we're talking decapitation for many farms.
That's a stark image. How are different regions being affected?
It's a massacre across the board. Wisconsin's 250 cow legacy farms are staring down a 40% butter profit wipeout if Canada slams its gates. In Quebec, tech-savvy barns are bracing for tidal waves of cheap milk from California's 5,000-head corporate Goliaths. It's David versus Dairy Godzilla, and Goliath's packing robotic milkers.
What about Mexico? Are they caught in this crossfire too?
Mexico's playing both sides like a fiddle. They're quietly rerouting 17% of their cheese imports to the EU, while we're busy shooting ourselves in the udder. It's a stark reminder that in this game, there are no allies, only interests.
This sounds like it's about more than just fair trade. What's really at stake here?
You're damn right, it's about more than fair trade. As one Montana co-op boss put it, and I quote, "This isn't about fair trade. It's about which side bleeds out first, your family farm or some conglomerate's quarterly report." We're talking about the very survival of small and medium-sized dairy operations across North America.
Let's shift gears a bit. There's been a lot of talk about Canada's supply management system. How does this factor into the equation?
Let's rip the Band-Aid off this festering wound, Bella. While Washington screams about Canada's quota system locking down 96.4% of their dairy market, they're conveniently ignoring the corporate carnage in their own backyard.
What do you mean by corporate carnage?
I'm talking about the mega dairy massacre happening right under our noses. Over 60% of U.S. milk is controlled by large-scale operations with more than 2,000 cows. The top three processors have their fingers wrapped around 90% of the bottling pipeline, like a corporate python squeezing its prey.
That's a pretty vivid image. How is this affecting smaller farms?
It's not just affecting them, it's destroying them. Take Pennsylvania's 72 cow heritage farms. These aren't just statistics, they're death notices. We're seeing 18% feed cost spikes when Dean Foods tightens its monopolistic chokehold, $3,200 monthly losses as mega dairies flood the market with surplus milk. This isn't a trade war, it's a corporate coup.
So who's really winning in this scenario?
The real winners? They're not wearing maple leaves. They're wearing Brooks Brothers suits and calculating your farm's funeral costs on a Goldman Sachs spreadsheet.
This paints a pretty bleak picture. Is there any hope for smaller operations?
There's always hope, Bella, but it comes with a caveat: adapt or die. As one Cornell nutritionist bluntly put it, upgrade your parlor tech or start pricing U-Hauls.
Can you give us some examples of how farms are adapting?
Absolutely. In Quebec's robotic barns, farmers are diverting 15% of milk flow into on-farm yogurt vats, bypassing processors entirely. One San Hyacinth operator told me, "Why sell raw milk for pennies when hipsters pay $8 a jar for probiotic gold?" Out west, California's mega dairies are deploying AI sensors to predict Tijuana's midnight mozzarella cravings, timing cheese production like Wall Street day traders.
That's fascinating. Are there any other innovative approaches you're seeing?
You bet. You bet. New Zealand's grass-grazing mavericks are capitalizing on the chaos, shipping tariff-free whey protein to fitness enthusiasts in Texas. But the real secret weapon? Feed efficiency. Every 1% gain in feed efficiency cancels 3% tariff pain. Farmers hoarding bypass protein and methane-digested TMRs aren't nerds. They're the new titans of the milk apocalypse.
It sounds like technology is playing a crucial role in survival.
It's not just crucial. It's the difference between thriving and dying. This isn't your granddad's downturn. It's a bare-knuckled brawl where survival favors the swift, the sly, and the ruthless.
Let's talk about another critical issue, labor. How is this affecting the industry?
Bella, this is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. Over 50% of America's milk flows through immigrant hands, many of whom are undocumented. We're not talking about faceless statistics. These are the backbone of your morning latte and cheese platter.
That's a significant percentage. What are the implications of this?
The implications are staggering. Deport these workers, and 12,000 plus processing jobs vanish overnight. We're not talking about minor disruptions. This is a full-blown collapse of the dairy industrial complex. No workers means no milk trucks, which means empty grocery aisles.
How are different countries responding to this labor issue?
Here's where it gets interesting. Mexico, tired of being America's labor punchline, is flexing new muscles. They're threatening to audit U.S. labor camps, the same ones that house workers milking 79% of our national herd. Picture ICE-style raids exposing rat-infested trailers and wage theft, while Wisconsin processors scramble to explain why their $8 per gallon milk relies on $18 per hour workers living in squalor.
That sounds like it could have serious repercussions.
You're damn right it could. This isn't just about ethics, it's about survival. Many operations have already lost $3,200 per month trying to replace missing workers. Meanwhile, mega dairies hide behind help wanted signs while lobbying against visa reforms. The result? A $32 billion economic time bomb ticking louder than a bulk tank alarm.
As we approach the 2026 deadline, what potential scenarios are we looking at?
We're looking at 3 nuclear options, Bella, and none of them are pretty. Let me break them down for you.
Please do.
First, we have what I call renegotiation theater. The U.S. demands 6% market access. Canada offers 0.5%. Talks drag until 2028. The winners? Corporate giants and Canadian processors. The losers? Small-scale operators and tech-savvy farms. One Toronto broker joked, "We'll repackage Wisconsin cheddar as artisanal Ontario gold."
That doesn't sound promising. What's the second option?
Option 2 is termination trauma. No 2026 deal triggers a decade-long uncertainty, killing long-term investments. Trade lawyers make a killing, China and the EU steal Mexico's dairy imports, and mega dairies exploit regulatory gaps. Meanwhile, show herds can't secure loans, cheese plants idle, and 28,000 plus jobs vaporize.
And the third option?
The third is what I call Tariff Armageddon. 25% tariffs lock in, fracturing North America into warring trade blocs. New Zealand and EU exporters feast on our misery, while California's mega dairies face 18% herd liquidations. Food security becomes a national crisis, and rural towns see 22% population collapse.
Those all sound like lose-lose situations. Is there any way to mitigate the damage?
There's no clear victory here, Bella, just different levels of destruction. But there are ways to survive, even thrive, if you're willing to adapt fast and fight hard.
So what's your advice to our listeners? What should they be doing right now?
Listen up, because this is crucial. For U.S. farmers, ditch butter, deploy drones, or drown. Pivot markets like your life depends on it, because it does. Abandon Canada's 42% butter addiction and redirect 30% of exports to Mexico's bakery boom. Tech up or tap out, robotic milkers slash 22% labor costs. And for God's sake, lobby like hell. Dairy packs were outspent 35-1 by big tech in 2024. Storm swing districts with tractor brigades.
And for Canadian farmers?
Canadian farms need to flood local markets, fleece tourists, or fail. Dominate home turf with artisanal cheese premiums. Sell agri-experiences to those 27 million annual U.S. border crossers. And look to Asia. Vietnam's yogurt craze spiked 37% last quarter. When tariffs hit, and they will, be ready to sell heifers over 3 lactations if 25% tariffs lock in.
This is a lot to take in. Any final words for our listeners?
The bottom line is this. July 2026 isn't a deadline. It's doomsday for cross-border dairy. This crisis won't delay. Farms will die. The question is, will yours? It's time to act, and act now. Your move.
Well, there you have it, folks. A stark but necessary wake-up call for the North American dairy industry. Thank you, Douglas, for this eye-opening discussion. To our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you preparing for 2026? What strategies are you implementing on your farms? Share your experiences and let's keep this crucial conversation going. Remember, the future of dairy isn't just about milk. It's about adaptation, innovation, and survival. Until next time, this is Bella for the Bullvine Podcast, reminding you to stay informed, stay prepared, and above all, stay in the game.
That's all for today's episode of the Bullvine Podcast, folks. If this wake-up call didn't curdle your milk, nothing will. Remember, in this industry, it's adapt or die. Take what you've learned, apply it to your operation, and start fighting for your farm's future today. Don't just sit there. Subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission to deliver the hard truths and cutting-edge insights you need to survive in this cutthroat industry. Until next time, this is the Bullvine Podcast, where we don't just talk about dairy, we're shaping its future. Now get out there and show those corporate giants what real farmers are made of.